Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Mitch's Mi친영어코칭. I'm here to help you speak English more comfortably, more professionally, and more confidently in business, in life, everywhere you need to speak English. And today we have a very useful topic, maybe useful, but not a fun topic, but something you're gonna need, okay, when you deal with difficult people. All of us have to deal with difficult people sometimes, and that is not easy. I'm going to make a confession to you. I am not good at dealing with difficult people, okay? If there's let's say you have a boss who's very not easy to talk to, not easy to deal with, always criticizing, always getting angry, getting emotional, that's not a good situation. I've had bosses like that. We probably all had bosses like that. It's not easy to handle that person. Or maybe you have a difficult client. Sometimes clients can be demanding, rude even. How do you handle that? Customer, you're dealing with a customer, they're very difficult customer, being very, rude and not polite, and sometimes even getting emotional, getting angry, confrontational. What do we do in those situations? Now, me personally, as I said, I'm not good at this. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm not good at this. I'm not talking from my experience here. I'm just talking from things I've learned, but I'm not good at it. So I'm still working on this. Generally, my response, if there's confrontation, I try to avoid it. I don't like to confront. I don't like to argue. I don't like to fight. So I generally just quietly move away from that person. And sometimes I just don't talk to them anymore. That's my way. Now, that is not a good method. That's not a good way to do it. And so I'm not recommending that. I'm just confessing that's my weakness. I'm not good at confrontation with difficult people, okay? I've had plenty of difficult people in my life, and they are all out of my life now because I don't like to deal with difficult people. Rarely did I ever sit down with them and talk it through, okay? And I should have in a lot of cases. Now, some people, you just can't. Some people, you can't reason with them, you can't talk to them. But when you're working in a business situation, let's say it's a client or your boss or even coworker, customer, you can't just run away. That's not going to work, right? So if you're going to be professional, part of that is we have to learn how to confront people. Okay, so let's learn it together because, as I said, I'm not good at this. I'm not good. So I'm going to teach you a couple steps here that I've learned from people who are experts on this kind of thing, right? Reading books, they talk about this in books, or, watching some lectures, people describing techniques that you can use that will help, okay? And you and I, we can practice these in the future whenever we have some kind of confrontation with a difficult person. Okay, so the first thing, you've got a difficult person, let's say your boss is angry, getting emotional. The first thing you can do is pause. The pause technique is very useful for calming things down. It will calm the other person down. It will also calm you down, okay? So just pause. Just take a breath. Don't react immediately, because when you react immediately, your voice tone, even if you're trying to hold it inside, you're angry, you're getting frustrated, it's going to come out in your voice tone, right? It's going to come out in the volume of your voice. It's going to come out in your body posture. Just the way you hold yourself, it's going to seem aggressive. And that's not what we want. We want to calm the situation down, okay? So the other person, you can't really control them. If they're out of control, if they're angry, if they're yelling, you can't control it. You can't stop them, but you can control yourself. So the first step is just listen, don't say anything, don't react, and just pause. That will immediately calm you down. Your nerves will kind of relax. Your heart will stop beating so fast. Your adrenaline won't pump so fast, so you can think clearer. Okay, that's very important, because when your adrenaline starts going and you get emotional, none of us are good at thinking in that context. So don't do that. Calm down, calm yourself down. And that will also probably, in most cases, that will calm the other person down a bit too. Okay, if you jump back with some loud comment back to them like, how dare you talk to me like that? now you're both gonna get angrier, emotions are gonna get out of control. So this is very important technique. Just pause, just wait. You will calm down, they will probably calm down a bit, maybe not, doesn't matter. Calm yourself down. Then the de-escalation phrases. You need some phrases to de-escalate. De-escalate means, escalate means go up, de-escalate means go down. We want to take the temperature down, right? We want to calm it down. So here's a good phrase to use. I understand your frustration. Let's find a solution. Okay. First, you need to show understanding. I understand your frustration. I understand what you're saying. Okay. I understand why you're upset. Okay. Now, if you don't understand, before this step, you can ask for clarification. You could say, okay, can you explain more about why you're upset? I see that you're upset. Can you tell me more about why? What's the reason? What did I do? That's first. And then once you understand it, say, all right, I got it. I understand your frustration. I see what you're saying. You might even want to apologize. If you did something wrong, just say, I'm really sorry about that. Now, if you didn't do anything wrong and this person is just angry, you don't have to apologize, but empathy. We say, I understand your frustration. I understand that you're upset. I can see that you're angry about this. I can see that this is making you upset. And then, very important, let's find a solution. Let's find a solution. Let's, very important. Let's means together, you and me. We're going to do this together. Even though we feel like enemies right now, let's find a solution. Let's try to fix this. Okay. Then another phase you might need is you might need to set boundaries. Okay. Boundary means, there are professional boundaries that you can set. When you're at work, there are lines that should not be crossed between coworkers, even between a boss and the employee. There are boundaries that should not be crossed. Okay. Sometimes they get crossed and we can forgive and we can forget. We can move on, but you need to set the boundaries. Okay, so let's say the boss is just angry, yelling, screaming at you. We've all had a crazy boss who gets angry and yells. A good thing to say after you pause, after you calm down, is say, I'm happy to discuss this, but I'd appreciate a more professional tone. I'm happy to discuss this means I want to talk about this, but I'd appreciate a more professional tone. That means I want to talk about this in a professional way, not with that voice tone. In other words, tone means your voice. Your voice tone is literally yelling at me. I don't want to have that. That's my boundary. I'm not going to communicate with you if you're going to yell, if you're going to scream, if you're going to be angry. Let's calm down and let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Okay, so that's a good boundary to set. I'd appreciate a more professional tone. Very professional way, very polite way to say that. Okay, I'm happy to discuss this, but I'd appreciate a more professional tone. I'm happy to talk about this, but let's calm down first. You could even say it like that. I'm happy to talk about this, but let's try to calm down first. Can we do that? Even ask them, can we do that? If they say no, if they say, I'm really angry, then just say, okay, look, can we take about an hour break and come back and talk about this in about an hour, or after lunch, or even tomorrow, maybe? Maybe tomorrow's too far. It depends on the situation. It may very well need to be done today, but not right now when you're both very emotional. So it's okay to say, like, can we just take a break? Even 15 minutes would be enough to calm you down and calm them down. Say, let's take a 15-minute break and we'll come back and we'll talk about this in a professional way. Okay? Can we do that? That's a good boundary to set. And it's not rude, but it's very professional and very confident. Okay? So try that. And then the last step here, clarifying expectations. Okay? Let's say you talk about it, you understand what they're saying, you've apologized if you need to, you kind of talked it through. Then you don't want to walk away from this meeting and have more problems, right? So you got to clarify expectations. What are they expecting you to do? So say it like this. Okay, so to avoid future issues, let's align on the process. To avoid future issues means I don't want to have more problems in the future. Issue is another word for problem. It's a nicer way to say problem. So to avoid that, to avoid future issues, let's align on the process. Again, let's. Very important to say let's because we're working together as a team. Let's align. Align means join together on the process. Process means the process of whatever this solution is that you came to, whatever the action plan is. So in the meeting, you probably said, okay, I understand what you're saying. I'll try to do this better. And let's try to make this happen. We'll do this. So that process. So let's align on the process. And then you might need to go over those steps more clearly. Again, say, okay, so just to make sure, I'm going to try to do this better. I understand you want this done faster, or you want this done better quality, whatever it is that your boss is so angry about, or the client is so angry about, just list them very clearly and restate them so that you are both, we say, on the same page. You're both on the same page. You're both agreeing and you're seeing the same thing, and you both want to walk away from this feeling like the problem has been dealt with. It's solved. Maybe not solved, but at least we're moving on. Okay? That is the way that it should work. Now, things don't always work well in real life, right? Especially when emotions are involved, so it may not always work, but it's worth trying to get the other person to calm down, get yourself to calm down and de-escalate the issue rather than escalate. Okay? And then the ending is very important for finding some real solutions to this problem, because if there's a problem, probably you both want to fix it, right? We don't want to have problems when we work. We want to eliminate the problems. So through this conversation, the goal is to fix the problem. Okay? Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe you did something wrong. Either way, let's talk about it. Let's fix it. Let's get some action steps to move on. In the future, if you do that, probably the relationship can be saved. Your job will be saved. The client will be saved. The customer. It'll work. Okay? So try it. Hopefully it'll work. I can't promise because people are unpredictable, but we do our best on our side, and hopefully the result will be good. Let me know if it works in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.